Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on Amazon EKS.
Okay.
And with me today, I have a wonderful expert to help us break down this complex topic.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, before we jump into EKS itself, I think we should level set for anybody who might be new to Kubernetes.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, imagine you have all of these applications,
Mm-hmm.
and they're packaged in containers.
Yeah.
Right? It's like those, those meal prep boxes that are really trendy now.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's pre-portioned out. It's easy to grab and go.
Right.
Kubernetes is kind of like a super organized refrigerator for all those containers.
Okay. I like that.
Keeps everything running smoothly, make sure they're all talking to each other properly.
Right.
But managing Kubernetes itself can be a real challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you're constantly having to fiddle with the settings and make sure everything is in the right place and troubleshoot any issues that come up.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of work involved in just keeping everything running smoothly.
Right.
And that's where Amazon EKS comes in.
Right. Exactly.
So Amazon EKS is a fully managed Kubernetes service
Okay.
that takes care of all that heavy lifting for you.
Uh-huh.
So you can focus on actually building and deploying your applications.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that EKS helps with is upgrades.
Okay.
Like Kubernetes upgrades can be really time consuming and even a little bit risky if you're not careful.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazon EKS takes care of that for you automatically.
So that's hours saved every month,
At least.
and less risk of things breaking during the upgrade process.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to worry about downtime or anything like that.
And the sources we've been looking at also talk about how Amazon EKS really ensures your applications stay up and running,
Mm-hmm.
even if there are problems in a particular AWS availability zone.
Right.
Can you remind folks what an availability zone is?
Sure. Yeah. So an availability zone is basically a physical location where Amazon's data centers are housed,
Okay.
and EKS runs the control plane for your Kubernetes cluster.
The control plane is kind of like the brains of the operation, right?
Exactly. It's the brains of your Kubernetes cluster,
Okay.
and it runs that across multiple availability zones.
Got it.
So even if one zone goes down for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
your applications keep running because the control plane is still active in another zone.
So that's really huge for reliability.
Absolutely.
But what about like managing the infrastructure itself?
Right.
Scaling the resources, making sure we're not overspending, integrating security. Like, it's a lot to juggle.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's where Amazon EKS Auto Mode comes in.
Okay, auto mode, tell me more.
So Auto Mode, it basically automates a lot of those infrastructure management tasks.
So it's kind of like a self-driving car for your Kubernetes infrastructure.
Exactly. You got it.
Nice.
It automatically provisions and scales resources as needed. It optimizes your cost, and it even integrates with AWS security services.
That sounds like a pretty big deal, especially for companies that are, growing really quickly or seeing a lot of fluctuation in demand.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of the guesswork and manual effort out of managing your EKS clusters.
Now, I did see something in the source material about Amazon EKS distro.
Oh, yeah.
What is that
So
exactly?
EKS distro is basically the foundation of all the EKS offerings.
Yep.
It's what ensures a consistent Kubernetes experience, whether you're running EKS in the cloud on-premises or at the edge.
So I can expect the same tools, APIs, and functionalities no matter where I'm running EKS.
Exactly. It makes things so much easier to manage.
Yeah.
And it also reduces the learning curve for your teams because they don't have to learn a different way of doing things depending on the environment.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, another thing that really stuck out to me in the source material was the emphasis on compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like Amazon EKS works really well with all the existing Kubernetes tools and plugins. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. EKS is certified Kubernetes conformant, so you can pretty much just bring your existing applications over without having to rewrite any GIND.
So if we've already invested all this time and energy into building a Kubernetes-based infrastructure,
Yeah.
we can easily move into Amazon EKS and get all the
No,
benefits.
exactly. It's like moving into a new house that already has all the furniture and appliances you need.
That's a great analogy. I
Right.
love it.
Yeah.
And just to top it off, Amazon EKS actually goes beyond the standard upstream support for Kubernetes versions.
Yeah, that's right. They provide extended support, which gives you more time to plan your upgrades and migrations.
Okay, so that's huge for teams that need to minimize disruption to their operations.
Absolutely.
Speaking of disruption, one area where Amazon EKS seems to be making a big impact is in machine learning workloads.
Yes, definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, as you know, machine learning workloads can be really demanding on your infrastructure.
Oh yeah, they need a lot of computing power.
Yeah, exactly. They need a lot of power and specialized hardware. And EKS is really well suited for those kinds of workloads because it can handle those resource-intensive tasks really easily.
So it can scale up to train those huge language models
Right.
and then scale back down when it's done.
Exactly. It's super efficient that way, and it supports all sorts of compute options,
Okay.
like powerful GPU-powered instances,
Yeah.
and even specialized hardware like AWS Neuron, which is designed for high-performance computing.
So it's like having this this toolbox full of different tools
Right.
all geared towards machine learning.
Exactly.
And what's even more impressive is the flexibility that EKS offers when it comes to deployment.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The source material mentioned hybrid deployments.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean exactly?
So traditionally, you would have to choose between running your workloads in the cloud
Okay,
or on premises.
got it.
With Amazon EKS, you can do both.
Oh, wow.
You can run EKS clusters in AWS regions, of course, but you can also run them on premises with AWS Outposts at the edge with Amazon EKS hybrid nodes, and even in isolated environments with Amazon EKS anywhere.
So it's not an all-or-nothing situation.
Nope.
You can pick and choose the deployment model that makes the most sense for your business.
Exactly. And even if you have some legacy applications that can't easily be moved to the cloud,
Yeah.
you can still use EKS to manage them on your own infrastructure.
So they've really covered all the bases here.
They really have.
This has been so insightful already,
Good.
and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's a lot more to dive into.
What's next for us?
Well, next we can look into the compute power behind EKS and how it leverages the range of Amazon EC2 instances.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn more about how EKS harnesses all that raw power to optimize performance.
Yeah, it's pretty
Awesome. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dive into that.
sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about the flexibility and the fact that Amazon EKS is a managed service.
Right.
But now let's get into the engine room.
Okay.
Let's talk about compute power.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight how Amazon EKS leverages all those Amazon EC2 instances,
Mm-hmm.
including the Nitro and the Graviton instances.
Yeah, those are powerful.
So what's the significance of having this diverse range of instances available to you?
Well, it's kind of like having a toolbox, right?
Yeah.
You have all these different wrenches, and you can pick the right one for the job.
Okay.
So whether you need raw processing power for like complex calculations, or you need tons of memory for data-intensive tasks, or you need specialized hardware like GPUs for machine learning, EKS lets you choose the right compute resources for your specific workload.
So it's not one size fits all.
Nope, not at all.
And you can really optimize for performance and cost by choosing the right instance type.
Exactly. And even beyond just the instance type, you have options like using on-demand or spot instances.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So on-demand are good for predictable workloads,
Mhm.
but spot instances let you take advantage of spare EC2 capacity.
At a much lower cost.
Yeah, exactly. Way cheaper. And that's perfect for things that are more flexible or fault tolerant.
That's a good point. Yeah. If the task can handle a little interruption here or there,
Right.
then spot instances are a great way to save money.
Absolutely.
But high performance is nothing without a good network.
Correct. Of course. Yeah, you need a secure and well-organized network to make sure everything runs smoothly.
So how does Amazon EKS handle networking?
Well, it integrates seamlessly with Amazon VPC.
Okay, VPC, remind me what that is again.
Yeah, so VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud,
Okay,
and it's basically like the traffic control system for your cloud network.
gotcha.
And EKS can leverage your existing security groups and network ACLs
Okay.
to control how traffic flows in or out of your cluster.
So it's like having a secure perimeter
Yeah.
around your EKS cluster.
Exactly, you got it.
Only authorized traffic can get in.
Right. And on top of that, EKS uses the Amazon VPC
CNI.
CNI, because it stands for Container Network Interface.
Okay.
And that assigns each of your Kubernetes pods its own unique IP address.
Directly from your VPC.
Yep. Which enhances security even further.
Because it isolates the pods from each other
Yeah.
and from the underlying network.
Right. So if one pod gets compromised, it doesn't bring down the whole application.
That makes a lot of sense. I also saw that EKS supports both IPv4 and IPv6,
Yeah, they do.
as well as dual stack endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why that's important?
Sure. So IPv4 is the older internet protocol.
Right, the one we all know and love.
Yeah, but IPv6 is the newer, more robust protocol with a much larger address space.
Gotcha.
So EKS's support for both ensures compatibility with a wide range of systems,
Mm-hmm.
and the dual stack endpoint support means you can connect to resources using either protocol.
So it's future-proof, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you the flexibility to transition to IPv6 at your own pace.
That's really smart. Okay, so we've talked about compute. We talked about networking,
Right.
but we can't forget about security.
Oh, yeah. Security's super important.
So how does Amazon EKS approach security?
Well, it integrates with AWS Identity and Access Management.
IAM.
Right, I am. And that provides a really comprehensive security framework.
So IAM isn't just about securing the cluster itself.
Right. It's also about controlling access to the individual applications and resources within the cluster.
Okay, so how does that work?
So EKS uses IAM to map permissions to Kubernetes RBAC.
RBAC, that's role-based access control, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay.
It's like having different levels of security clearance for different people in your organization.
Right, you don't want the intern having access to the same things as the CEO.
Exactly. And that level of control is essential when you have multiple teams and applications running in your cluster.
And to make things even more secure, EKS integrates with other AWS security services.
Oh, yeah, like security groups for controlling network traffic, AWS Key Management Service for encryption,
But,
and AWS CloudTrail for auditing all the API activity.
so you have a log of who did what in your cluster.
Right, which is essential for compliance and incident response.
So with all these security measures in place, how do we keep an eye on what's actually happening inside the cluster?
That's where observability comes in.
Okay.
EKS integrates with a bunch of AWS services for monitoring, logging, and auditing all the cluster activity.
The source material mentioned AWS Managed Service for Prometheus, Amazon CloudWatch, and Amazon Guard Duty.
Yeah, those are some of the key ones.
Can you break down what each of those services does?
Sure. So AWS Managed Service for Prometheus or AMP,
Okay.
that's designed for collecting and analyzing metrics from your applications and infrastructure.
So you can see how everything is performing.
Exactly. And CloudWatch is a more general monitoring service.
Mm-hmm.
It can collect logs, track metrics, set alarms, and just give you a unified view of your whole AWS environment.
And what about Guard Duty?
Guard Duty is the threat detection service.
Okay.
It's constantly analyzing your AWS accounts, looking for any malicious activity.
So it's like having a security guard watching your cluster 24/7.
Pretty much. Yeah, it uses machine learning to identify suspicious patterns, and it'll alert you right away if there's anything fishy going on.
Okay, that sounds really important to catch those threats early on.
Oh yeah, for sure. The
Wow.
earlier you can detect a threat, the better.
So we've covered compute, networking, security, and observability.
We have.
What's next on our Amazon EKS journey?
Well, now let's talk about storage.
Okay.
Because you can't have applications without somewhere to put all that data.
Makes sense. Where do we store all this data?
Right.
So storage.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You need somewhere to put all this data for your applications.
Right. And EKS offers a ton of storage options.
Okay.
Thanks to the container storage interface.
Container storage interface?
Yeah, or CSI drivers.
CSI drivers.
They basically connect your EKS cluster to different AWS storage services.
Okay, like a bridge.
Exactly.
So the sources mentioned Amazon EBS, Amazon S3, FSX, and File Cache.
Yeah, those are some of the big ones.
It seems like a lot of choices.
It is, but that's good. It means you have the flexibility to pick the right storage for your needs.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Sure. So, like, if your application needs persistent block storage, like for a database, then Amazon EBS would be a good fit.
Okay, so EBS for databases.
Mm-hmm.
What about if I need something really scalable,
Mm-hmm.
like for storing lots of images or videos?
Then you'd probably want to go with Amazon S3.
S3. Okay, and what if my applications need a shared file system?
Then you could use Amazon EFS or Amazon FSX.
EFS or FSX?
Yeah, and for workloads that need really fast caching,
Oh,
there's Amazon File Cache.
so no matter what kind of storage I need,
Right.
EKS has an option.
Exactly. They've got you covered.
But how do you manage all of these different storage options? It seems like it could get pretty complicated.
Yeah, it could, but that's where Amazon EKS add-ons come in.
Add-ons.
Yeah, they're these like prepackaged bits of software
Okay.
that extend the functionality of your cluster.
Give me some examples.
Sure, so they can provide things like enhanced networking,
Okay.
advanced load balancing storage management tools, security features, observability options.
So basically like a toolbox full of specialized tools for your EKS cluster.
Exactly, and they're really easy to install and manage.
Okay, so add-ons can help simplify things, but
Mhm.
managing a Kubernetes cluster, even with EKS, can still seem a bit intimidating.
Yeah, I can see that.
What kind of tools or interfaces are available for actually interacting with EKS?
Well, Amazon provides a few different ways to manage your EKS clusters.
Okay.
You can use the AWS Management Console if you prefer a graphical interface,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're more of a command line person,
Right.
You can use the AWS CLI.
So there's an option for everybody.
Yeah, and you can also use APIs and SDKs if you want to automate tasks
Okay.
or integrate EKS into your existing workflows.
And for those who want to go the infrastructure as code route, there's CloudFormation and Terraform.
Exactly. Those are great for managing your clusters in a declarative way.
And what about AWS controllers for Kubernetes?
Oh, yeah, ACK.
ACK.
That lets you manage AWS services like databases, load balancers, even serverless functions directly from your Kubernetes cluster.
So it's a really tight integration with the rest of the AWS platform.
Absolutely.
All right, so before we wrap up, let's talk about operating systems.
Sure.
What operating systems can I use with Amazon EKS?
So Amazon provides these pre-built optimized AMIs.
The AMI.
Yeah, Amazon Machine Images.
Okay.
For popular operating systems like Amazon Linux 2, Amazon Linux 2023, Bottle Rocket, Windows, Ubuntu.
Okay.
They're all designed to work seamlessly with EKS, and they're kept up to date with security patches and optimizations.
So no matter what OS I prefer, I can find a compatible AMI for my workloads.
Most likely.
And if there isn't one, I can bring my own custom AMI.
Exactly. You have that flexibility.
Speaking of flexibility, let's talk about pricing.
Okay.
How does Amazon EKS pricing work?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. You pay a small fee per cluster.
Okay.
And that varies a little depending on the Kubernetes version you're using. If you use EKS Auto Mode, there's a little extra charge for that.
Makes sense.
And if you're running EKS hybrid nodes, you pay per vCPU for those nodes.
Okay, but the key point is you only pay for the AWS resources that your worker nodes are actually using.
Right. So if your worker nodes are running on EC2 instances, you pay for the instances. Any EBS volumes, public IP addresses, or other AWS services they're using.
So it's a pay-as-you-go model.
Exactly. You only pay for what you actually use.
And you can use things like savings plans to save even more.
Oh, yeah. If you have predictable usage patterns, savings plans can really help.
Awesome. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Amazon EKS.
We have.
It's a powerful and versatile service for anyone who wants to streamline their containerized workflows.
Definitely.
Whether they're deploying simple web apps or running complex machine learning models.
Yeah, it's a really impressive platform.
What's your final takeaway for our listeners?
I think that the biggest takeaway is that Amazon EKS really simplifies Kubernetes management.
Yeah.
It lets you focus on building and running your applications.
Rather than getting bogged down in the infrastructure.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's a super flexible and scalable platform that can work for pretty much any size organization.
That's a great point. If you're looking to modernize your applications and really embrace the power of containers, EKS is definitely worth a look.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful journey
What?
through the world of Amazon EKS. We've explored its features, its benefits, and its potential to change the way we build and deploy applications.
And the best part is that this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
The world of technology is constantly evolving, and Amazon EKS is at the forefront of that evolution.
So keep learning, keep experimenting.
Exactly.
Keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Amazon EKS.
Happy to be here.
We hope you found it informative and insightful, and until next time, keep exploring.